Well, Delta starting airline results off on a high note. Shares popping pre-market trading after reporting record high quarterly revenue and profits in its second quarter. The airline beating on the top and bottom line. Revenue came in at $14.6 billion versus the $14.44 billion estimated, and earnings per share that topped the estimate of $2.41 with an actual of $2.68. The company also raised its full year outlook as the revenge travel boom that continues to be a tailwind for much of the sector. I got a chance to speak to Delta CEO Ed Bastian about these results, asking him how long he thinks this surge in travel spending can persist.
I think it's going to persist for quite some time. When we look at the health of our consumers, which is principally a premium consumer, we look at their top priority for spend is in premium travel experience. When you look at on an economic level, the flip that we've seen where goods is overtaking services in our economy, and services are coming back, and actually the reductions in good purchases are funding that service spend of returning. We think there's easily several years of this continuing because the pandemic was a 3-year phenomenon. I expect on the other side of it, we're going to see just as long a recovery back to the norms where we were previously.
And we've got more of that interview ahead on Yahoo Finance. Just kind of two things to add as context here too, Julie, and the conversation and even what came through from the company's earnings release that dropped this morning. There's two themes here. International travel, that's remaining extremely strong for the broader industry and especially for Delta, where they're leaning into this premium consumer and the consumer on their loyalty basis that's about 10 years younger now in the Sky Miles loyalty base that they're building up here too. Another consecutive quarter of record growth in that Sky Miles monthly member acquisition as well.
I mean, it's also interesting on the expense side of the equation that things are improving there. The company talked about an inflection point in on costs in the statement, so that doesn't hurt.
No, not at all.
At the same time that they're seeing this demand that is persistent, if costs are coming down, that is helpful.
Yeah, and especially knowing how much for fuel price fluctuations, how customers look to some of those instances, or even where there have been negotiations with pilots unions to ensure wherever the customer may ensue more of or see some of the higher prices. For Delta, the difference there is that when you have the consideration of, number one, the pilots, they're still working through kind of this backlog and making sure that those pilots are getting out of training and putting them into the routes and adding them to the capacity schedules as well. But then on the fuel price, this company is a little bit different as they have their own refining practice too that helps them mitigate some of the costs that would have been incurred by other airlines on that fuel price fluctuation too.
All right, well, we're going to be playing more of that interview, I believe, coming up a little bit later on.